Hello, my dear church boys, and welcome back to Saint Forward's Day Game Pickup Podcast. In this podcast episode, I am interviewing Robbie Kramer. There are many things Robbie does in the day game and dating community, but the one thing I was most interested talking to, he sets up model houses wherever he goes, and that way he attracts some of the hottest girls in the area to live and party with him and his friends, and that's what we're talking about on this podcast. He actually even tells you how you can also start setting up houses like that. When recording this podcast episode, Robbie was in Kiev, Ukraine. I was in Belgrade, Serbia. I had just come back from Mexico, where we did a long-ass day game trip with a few other seducers and a few students of mine, and we are already planning our next trip for July this summer to either Russia, Serbia, or Ukraine. We do trips like this all the time. The first we did was in autumn 2019, where me and a bunch of my closest day game friends went to Belgrade, Serbia. And that was my first long day game trip. That's when I actually started living the traveling lifestyle. And let's just say we had some crazy fun. One of the guys went on a date with an 18-year-old girl who turned out to be daughter of one of the most feared men in Serbia. We had the ups, we had the downs, we had the crazy lays, crazy adventures. It was just crazy. The next one was autumn 2020, so last year. Me and a bunch of guys and a few students, we went to Mexico and had some amazing adventures there, and now we decided to make this a regular trip. So the next trip will be in July, in this summer, but the thing is, the location will become secret just to not attract too many people. If too many guys show up, we will just destroy the city. It's pretty much what happened in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. So if you want to know everything about the trips I'm planning for me, my closest friends, and anyone else who wants to join, then make sure you are on the mailing list. So go to saintrobert.blog, that is strobert.blog, and sign up for the mailing list. And when you do that, reply to the welcome email, and I'll send you all the information about the trip in July. Also, if you're still struggling with your texting and what to do on dates, then I have several free texting and dating courses available. It's basically all the stuff that I teach my day game students, but it's in a video format and for free. So if you want to get access to that, just head over to daygamecourses.com and sign up. With all of this being said, let's get down to the conversation with Robbie. Okay, we're live. Oh, hi guys. Well, we have Robbie as a guest today, but I won't do the intro. Robbie, I'll let you do the fucking intro. Just tell the guys who the fuck you are and.
Sure. Yeah, I'll give you the quick little spiel, and then I'll kind of tell you my story. I'm a long-time confidence and dating coach, been doing it since 2007. I live in Kiev, Ukraine, but I'm American. And I have a pretty crazy story. I started out kind of like the nerd in high school. I was the guy who played golf, brought extra copies of my homework for girls, was terrified to let a girl know that I was actually interested in her. You know, like the idea that she knew that I liked her would gave me like, oh my God, she's going to think I'm a creep or whatever, which is pretty common growing up in the US. And I just had no way of like expressing my interest in girls or showing, I had no confidence in doing that. So I was always in the friend zone. I found the kind of pickup seduction community right after graduating from university. And it was, the first time in my life I was like, oh, wow, you can actually improve yourself and become a more confident guy. These are some, tools to improve with women and communicate with women. So I just became like totally obsessed with it. I wanted to be like, I was always jealous of my buddies that could go to bars and nightclubs and pick up girls, and because I just basically felt like anytime I did get a girlfriend or find a girl, it was just kind of like luck, or she thought I was cute. But I was kind of fat and overweight and not a lot of confidence. The main thing that really changed for me was just doing thousands and thousands of approaches. I know you talk about day game a lot on your show, and I'm one of the biggest believers in day game you'll ever meet. I actually rented a car. Me and my buddy rented a couple cars last summer and drove around eastern Ukraine for a couple months, basically doing nothing but day game, which is kind of how I ended up with my current girlfriend. But yeah, so doing a ton of day game was the thing that took me from the guy who never really got what he wanted to having a very kind of fulfilling and abundant dating life. And I was around when I got into game and personal growth. I wanted to be one of these like digital nomad types of guys. I didn't want to just live and work in an office and kind of do the normal lifestyle. So I started renting apartments and subletting them on Airbnb, and that allowed me to kind of create some side income. It allowed me to kind of start this coaching business back in the day too. And so I was splitting my time between LA and New York, and then every summer I would go over to Europe. And every time I went to Europe, I went a little bit further east, because as an American, you hear like, oh my God, Russia, Ukraine, those countries, former USSR countries are scary, and you might get kidnapped and your liver or kidney stolen, and so you go to France, you go to Italy, you go to the Western countries. But then as you travel more, you realize, yeah, you realize all the beautiful women are further east. I remember I went to Hungary and Poland. I was blown away with just how gorgeous the women were. And everyone was like, you got to go to Ukraine. You got to go to Ukraine. I'm like, isn't it dangerous? Blah, blah, blah. And so finally in 2015, I went to Odessa. And, it wasn't just the fact that the women were beautiful. It's just, there's no fat women. Where in the U.S., like, everyone's fat. Obviously, not just the women, the guys too. So it's like, just the fact that people are in shape makes the population as a whole much more attractive. But also the women of Eastern Europe, like what worked on American girls and on Western European girls wasn't really working on Eastern European women. They were way tougher. They were like human lie detectors. If you tried to tell them some bullshit or tell them what they wanted to hear, they'd call you out on it. So it really allowed me to kind of take my communication skills and game to a whole new level. And eventually I got involved in, I was helping kind of create some parties with a buddy who shot for Ukrainian Playboy. And it was kind of a cool situation. I was involved with some model houses and some promoters in that world back in the US. And this guy told me, he's like, hey, I'm always doing these photo shoots, but I don't have any way to pay for them. I'm usually just paying out of my own cost. And we're going to exotic locations, bringing models, and shooting for Playboy. Do you have any friends or other Americans with money, because all my friends are typically broke and I'm the one paying for it, that would want to come and help subsidize these trips, because obviously you got to pay for the photographer, you got to pay for the lodging, all that stuff. So we started putting some of these trips together, and just seeing the dynamics of being in a situation where you're surrounded by beautiful women. The ratio is like 3 or 4 to 1, is completely different than anything I'd ever really experienced. Because most of the time, guys, you go to a nightclub or even you go out and you hunt during the day, it's either one-on-one or there's a huge competition for the most beautiful women. But when you're kind of thrown into this other situation where the ratio is actually in your favor, it kind of changes everything. Women compete for you. You kind of get to act almost like the bitchy girl who doesn't give a shit. And the more you kind of act like that diva, like they tend to do in a lot of situations, the more they want you. So it's really interesting kind of how the roles were reversed. So just living that lifestyle for a few years was very eye-opening. And I also have a podcast, and I talk about this sort of stuff a lot on there. And after about, I'm 38 now, and I was basically, hardcore in the game since I was like 23, so like 15 years. Did all the crazy shit that I could possibly think of. Checked off everything on the like bachelor's bucket list. And eventually I was like, this lifestyle is fun. I was in open relationships, swinger relationships, had 2 girlfriends at one time, but I was like, I keep meeting like these crazy girls because these are the type of parties that I'm going to. This is where I'm hanging out. And I was like an idiot. I'm like, why do these girls keep doing like shitty things to me? Like, why do they fuck my friends? Or why does this happen? Or why does that happen? And then I kind of, it was stupid that it took me so long to realize, but I'm like, no, I was doing the same thing as well, but these are the type of people that hang out in those crazy party environments. And I decided that it was kind of an unhealthy lifestyle. I had kind of done all the crazy shit I wanted to do, and it was kind of around right at that time that I met my now girlfriend, who is very, very normal, and we actually have a monogamous relationship, and it's been amazing for 8 months. I was like the last guy who ever thought I could be in a monogamous relationship. I was like, that's bullshit. I don't believe in it. And now, I'm very happy. Life is a lot more, enjoyable and calm and peaceful.
Healthier.
Healthier, much healthier.
Less alcohol and drugs.
Exactly, man. I mean, for a while, I was definitely going hard on all of those things.
By the way, I was thinking like these model houses, because I know a few guys who have like been photographers there, and how much, obviously we're both good church boys and we don't do anything, and no one should, because it's bad for your health, and this is not a medical advice, blah blah blah, don't sue us later. But how these houses, how cocaine heavy are they?
Oh, it's everywhere.
Okay. This
It's
is
like,
interesting. Who pays for the coke?
certainly not the girls.
Okay,
sometimes,
yeah, that's what I wanted to know. Yeah, so
right.
so it's kind of like a spending money type of game.
Well, it depends. Usually there's a lot of transactions going. So anytime, I'm not saying I was there, but when you're in that community, right? So when you're in the nightlife model promoter community, no one really has money, but everyone does favors for each other. And usually it's kind of funded by one sponsor, one rich guy who's, or the club helps pay for it too. The way it was working when I was doing it in New York is, so I had some of these Airbnb apartments I mentioned, and my buddy was a promoter, and he would get paid $50 to $100 per girl he brought to a nightclub, right? And so they had contracts with different nightclubs. So on a Thursday night, they'd go to One Oak, and if he brought 10 girls, he'd make $1,000. Another club, if he brought 10, maybe he made 500. But the problem was getting the girls to show up, because hot girls are pretty flaky. And so what he did was he opened a model house, and the girls live for free. And in exchange for living for free, they're obligated to show up to the nightclub, a few days per week. And obviously, it's a lot easier to get them there if they're all coming from the same house. You got a car and a driver, and it just takes everyone there. So that's the business model. And of course, drug dealers want to hang out with hot girls too, so they'll happily, provide all of those funsies in exchange for, hanging out. Rich guys who want to hang out and, spend and help, pay for the alcohol and the transportation, the after parties. That's kind of their contribution. I was contributing the house, so that was my contribution. It's so even, it's not like this guy's gonna pay for it or that. It's just it all just kind of gets handled. And it was, I learned so much in that world. Like, prior to that, I'd go to nightclubs, and occasionally I'd get some buddies together, and we'd, pool our money, a couple $100 each, 200-300, and we'd, buy a couple bottles. And we'd always see these tables of gorgeous women and be like, what, there's 10 chicks at that table and there's 2 guys. Like, what the hell is going on? And I didn't realize until later, these are promoter tables. These are the tables that we were going to. And you have no access to those girls when you're just a normal dude in the nightclub. Good luck trying to go to that table and get those girls to interact with you. They're, first of all, they're not really having fun because they have to be there. They're almost, unofficially being paid to be there. And they're only going to really have fun with the guys that they've met before through that social circle in that scene that they feel comfortable with, because they're getting hit on, all day, every day on Tinder, just guys on the street, obviously, from every angle. And that's the one thing I love about day game, is that's kind of the one situation where you can succeed with a model quality girl, because she's just not expecting to be hit on during the day. She might be expecting to get catcalled or some construction worker yell at her, but like a confident dude like coming up out of nowhere and making that a fun kind of just easy interaction, that's really the only thing that works with models, because good luck getting them during night. Like if you're out at a club or a bar and there's hot girls there, there's always going to be guys with them or just like an entourage blocking your access. So, yeah.
Yeah. So why Kiev? Why did you move to Kiev? I know it's easy to go there. That's but
Well, it was really because of the well, two reasons really. So we started doing these trips with the Ukrainian Playboy, and after the first trip, the trip was in the Maldives, and we rented a yacht and we were out there for a week. I flew back to LA, and I was like, I had my social circle in LA, but I was pretty depressed because the 20 smoking hot Ukrainian Playboy models were all in Kiev. And I had made like really good friendship with a lot of these girls, hooked up with a few of them as well. One was like, kind of like a girlfriend situation. And then there was another trip coming up like a couple months later. So, spent that time like fantasizing about the next trip, then went back. And the trips became more regular. And I was like, it doesn't really make sense for me to keep flying from the US to Kiev and then to a destination. Sometimes we would do trips in Italy, sometimes we would do Maldives, sometimes we do France, Cyprus. So I was just kind of going there anyways, and I'm like, well, I work online, I have a coaching business, and I work from, it's not like I need to really be anywhere. So I'll just move to Kiev, and my friend let me crash at his place for like 6 months. He had an extra bedroom. And then I was also coming out with a product on how to basically make the Airbnb side business like I did. So I wanted to test the market here in Kiev. I wanted to see if vacation rentals would do well as I was teaching that course. So I ended up getting some places here as well. And it turned out Kiev was a great market prior to the pandemic, of course. Now everything's dead as far as vacation rentals go, but it'll come back. And so I ended up building a little portfolio of rental properties here, and bought some stuff, and just fell in love with the culture. I have Ukrainian roots. My like great grandparents are from Dnipropetrovsk, and just I'm just like an Eastern European Jew from this area. So like being here feels like home. And
how's your Russian, by the way?
Neplохо. Not so bad. I've been learning. Well, that was the one thing and my shirt. I don't know if you guys can.
Yeah, show guys your shirt.
Fucking pizdец. The way this shirt came to be, and this is like, if I ever go out or just if I want to meet people and I wear this shirt, I'll get stopped like every 5 minutes because people love this shirt, and they love how it's it's English with the fucking and pizdец in Russian.
Yeah.
So really. And the way that came to be is the first word I learned in Russian was pizdец.
Of course.
Which is, shit, pussy. It's
usually the second word. The first one usually is блядь.
Right. And so I kept like, instead of saying shit, I'd say pizdец. And then I just naturally started saying fucking pizdец instead of fucking shit. And every time I'd say that, like all the girls around me, everyone would laugh. And like, they're like, oh my God, that's so funny, fucking pizdец. So I put it on a t-shirt and started a little Instagram account. And now I, if people want them, they can go and they can pick one up on the Instagram account. It's just fucking pizdец, and or I can just give them away to my friends. I don't make any money on this business, unfortunately, but I give away a lot of free shirts, or occasionally people buy them. But even in the U.S., like if you wear these and there's a Russian speaker, they'll always come and talk to you. So it's
Ukrainian part of New York City. That's what I came to Belgrade from New York City, and I just was in this neighborhood where it's like so many Russians, so many Ukrainians, so many buildings with names in Russian and others.
Are you in Brighton?
Sorry?
Brighton Beach or Sheepshead Bay?
It was
they call it Little Odessa, right?
It was Lower East Side. No, it was, I don't even remember, man. But somewhere in Manhattan, like Lower Manhattan.
Yeah.
Next to Bovary, and yeah. But I was not leaving my apartment. I was quarantining, self-isolating between Mexico and Serbia.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been coaching for years now. So what exactly do you coach? Do you coach day game? Do you, like, when it comes to dating? And I know like your kind of main product includes different things, but from the dating side of you, Do you coach day game? Do you coach like kind of mix of everything online? What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I do a mix of everything. My kind of main mentality is, you want to transform yourself into the type of guy that women are really attracted to. And one of the biggest ways to do that is you have to approach. Obviously, you have to get in the reps. You need to get experience, and you're not going to do that by sitting on Tinder. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to develop the social skills. You're not going to learn how to go on dates, and you're not going to learn how to deal with women and deal with feminine energy by not like having a shitload of reps under your belt. So what I always say, day game is like the squat or the deadlift of working out. It's like if you don't deadlift or squat, you're probably not in that great of shape, or you're probably not very strong. So that's like it doesn't matter what level you are, in my opinion. Day game is the thing that will make you good the fastest. And it's not until you basically have like a huge option of women to choose from. Some guys like to build a harem, for lack of a better word, or, they're casually dating multiple girls.
Of course.
And at that point, I like to say you can transition from like the hunter mentality where you're out and, approaching girls all the time to like the farming mentality. And if you have some really solid wingmen, other guys who want to kind of leverage their resources together and do consistent parties, invite all the girls you meet, and keep those parties, like don't let other guys come, keep a really good ratio, and throw cool events. They don't have to necessarily cost a lot of money. You can do them at houses. You could, especially during quarantine or lockdown, like house parties are amazing. Every girl wants to get out. And you can, if you have 3 buddies and they're all going out meeting women during the day, or just meeting women wherever, Tinder, doesn't matter, nightlife, through their friends, and you all bring 3 girls and they all bring a friend, like it's not that hard to create an environment where you've got a 3-to-1 ratio, a lot more women than men, and then they compete for your attention, and you can kind of grow this social circle like that. And as long as you're smart about it and you don't try to fuck every girl, and you're not like the thirsty guy who like has to, like it's okay to have some female friends because they'll bring friends, and then you'll probably hook up with them too. So the mentality shifts a bit once you get good, but I've never seen anyone get good without doing a lot of day game. And that goes for Dan Blazarian. I mean, he's kind of like everyone, Hugh Hefner, he's like the new Hugh Hefner, right? And even if you listen to his interview, he used to do a ton of a day game when he was a university student. So,
yeah.
Back in the day, he didn't call it that, obviously. There wasn't like a term for day game, really, but he would just hit on girls on campus. Wherever he saw them, he'd run up to them. So, yeah, that's like basically the way that I like to explain to guys is first you need a lot of leads. I kind of like to look at it like marketing, right?
Of course, yeah.
You need a lot of leads. You find them during day game, right? You got to be good at texting to convert those leads into actual dates, and then you need to get good at taking girls on dates. And that's something we could talk about too. I have a pretty cool dating progression that works really well during lockdown. If you want to chat about that or whatever else.
So do you work in field, like one-on-one with them? Do you do groups, or what do you do?
Yeah, I run an immersion. Well, the main way the guys work with me is I have an ongoing like mentorship. So guys, there's a group of guys. It's called the Leverage Program.
Yeah.
We have a Discord group. It's a monthly membership, and we chat in the Discord group. We do Zoom calls every week, and mostly that's just a way for guys to get accountability approaching, right? Because we're in a group with a bunch of other guys who are approaching, and people are like in individual little tribes, and if people don't approach, we call them out, and we're like, come on, man, stop being a bitch, go out and do this stuff. And then once every 6 months, I usually do like a live event. I do one every year in the US typically, or Mexico I did a few months ago, and then I do one in Kiev. And then if guys are just here, yeah, sometimes I do one-on-one as well.
Is it like it's a group thing?
Yeah, it's a small group. It's usually like 4 to 6 guys maximum. And then it's me and some wing girls, and we rent a house here in the center. And it's a combination of a lot of day game, a lot of parties. I invite all the girls I know from my social circle. So we do that. It's usually a week long, so it's like a pretty intense.
So you don't go in depth technically when you coach, kind of because like it's impossible to coach. Wait, let me close Telegram. Notifications popping up.
Sure. No, I mean, I go as in depth as I feel like I could.
With several guys at the same time, because if you coach like 4 to 6 guys.
Yeah, so I have usually it's a 2-to-1 ratio. So there's me.
That's fine. Yeah.
Other coaches, yeah. So and it's a week long, so there's always enough time. You know, we put guys on the microphone and videotape them approaching, and you know, sometimes we can even get footage from inside the house when we do parties, and so we go over that. So that's, I feel like, the most sort of in-depth sort of coaching that I've been.
Yeah, that's what most people do. Like they have like they coach, they have like a few assistant guys, and then they kind of like do a group thing. That's what pretty much most people do now. Like I might start doing that in a year, but I really enjoy geeking out on one-on-one stuff because I'm a fucking geek.
Yeah. I love the one-on-ones too, but yeah, you can definitely.
Yeah, I can geek like way deeper and try to hack the student's brain because I'm just like day game to me is like hacking stuff, and then like marketing is hacking stuff, and podcasting is hacking stuff, and coaching and etc. So when you work with guys, there are usually like several main, how do we call them, like pitfalls maybe, or throughout their journey that
common mistakes or pitfalls.
Yeah, but like in a so usually when the guys will start learning, there'll like be one most typical mistake they are making, and then they fix that, and there will usually be next afterwards. And we're obviously we're not talking about not knowing what to text, not knowing what to like do on dates. Like all that is like that's the easy shit. There's like plenty of content on that. You have some, I have a bunch of stuff on that, but from the perspective of how they're learning or how they're approaching or doing things, what have you noticed as the biggest pitfalls?
So more like a mentality.
Like for example, like what I say is like if someone isn't doing 25 approaches a week, I mean, just like fuck off. Like what are you even doing? Like what are we even talking about? There's no way you're ever gonna be good.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you there's no way around that. You know, you have to put in the time. Yeah, one of the big ones is the guys don't understand that when they haven't done approaches, they're gonna come off creepy. You know, luckily here in like Eastern Europe or Russian-speaking countries, there's really no word for creepy as bad as it is in English. Like it's not like in English, if you get called a creep in America, you're like the biggest scumbag loser ever, right? It's like calling a girl a slut. It just totally takes away all your value. But I found, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because you're obviously a native speaker and from this area, but like there's no similar like word. There's like maniac. That's more like a crazy.
No, that's way.
Yeah, that's way worse or different. But there's nothing like creepy. So I feel like the guys in this part of the world, or especially not just here, but Italy, Brazil, a lot of the countries where it's feminism hasn't really taken hold yet. It's pretty normal and natural for most guys to be a little bit more forward, for guys to be like, yeah, I fucking like you. Like, I want to fuck you. You're a beautiful woman. But, in the U.S., like, there's almost every guy I work with, including myself, like, it's just not okay to admit that or to talk about that. Or, like, you can tell it to your buddies, but you would never, like, admit that to a girl. And because of that fear, you end up basically, like, there's no way to not do it in a creepy way because you've never done it. So there's always this phase that guys have to go through where they're basically creeps for like, if you do enough approaches, if you're doing 25 approaches a week, you can get past it in probably a month. It probably takes around 100 approaches to really like stop feeling like you give a shit whether she cares that you like her or not. It's like, yeah, I like you. It's not my fault. It's it's my biology. I'm not making
just stress.
Yeah. So that's kind of the biggest one. It's like, it's crazy for me how many guys have this fear of simply like expressing their attraction. So that's kind of the first thing I see. And then once guys get over that, and then from there, it's usually revolves around chasing women. A lot of guys kind of have this mentality, and I think this is from watching too many movies, pop culture, Disney, like the one mentality, right? It's like they see this girl and she's so hot, and then they start having fantasies of like them together and this and that, and they build this like sandcastle in the sky sort of thing. And I hear that a ton from like, it's just like, oh, she's the one, or this girl I met, she's a fucking 11, 12.0, and like if I could get her, I'll be happy. And it's like, no, man, that's not how it works. Like eventually you'll realize that there is no one. There's a lot of awesome girls out there who you could turn into the one for you, right? Because it's all about the communication, the relationship, how you guys get along with each other. Some people are just not a match. And other people, if you find the right communication, it could be like the one situation, but you build ones, you don't find them. And so that's kind of another way that guys get stuck, that they just kind of get in this mindset of, and it ends up being like a seeking sort of mindset. And you hear about this a lot in like meditation or the spiritual community, people that are like seeking something where they feel like once I get that, then everything in my life will be good, then I'll be happy. Once I find that dream girl, then like I'll finally be happy. And it's never like that, like, for anything, whether that's for you money or the girl or the fucking nice car, if you're seeking a thing to make you happy, it will never fulfill you. So a lot of, I don't know if you've seen that with the guys that you work with, but just some sort of like,
like when they're really beginning, that's like the beginner mentalities, but once they like are in a community even for a few weeks, they understand that that's not what we do. Like we sleep with chicks and with a lot of chicks, and that's what we're after. And if someone chooses to start something serious afterwards, that's on them. That's fine. Totally, that's normal.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's more for like absolute, like if someone came to the community without knowing anything at all, then yeah, then that's definitely a thing.
I guess I see that a lot so I encounter a lot of guys in Kiev who they have a lot of money. They, they like, they don't have a lot of game because they haven't done day game. They haven't approached a lot, but they think they do, and they spend money like they do. And, of course they get laid, but they get laid by sugar babies mostly, or girls that don't really give a shit. They just want, that material or that cash or whatever. It's not usually like a straight hooker deal, but sugar baby, sugar daddy sort of thing. And these guys are typically the ones with the fucked up mentalities that kind of have that idea, like, oh, I'm looking for the one. I'm like, you're looking for the one on seeking arrangements? Good luck. Like, I mean, maybe needle in a haystack, but like, not the best place to hunt.
Yeah, definitely. So okay, let's talk something more interesting. Let's talk about transitioning from day game, like learning day game. Someone who maybe like learns day game, gets their like first, let's say 30 day game lays. I think once someone gets 30 day game lays, they know how day game works. Anything less is like they don't know shit about day game. Like they're like students of game. But once you get to 30 from day game, if they're hot enough, then I feel happy to say that guy knows what the fuck he's talking about. So let's say I have a shitload of plays from day game, and I want to try as an experiment setting up a house like that. And I'm gonna ask this from like a personal curiosity, because I have been thinking about this, and I had friends suggest actually doing that who also are really good day gamers. So how would someone?
How would you set that up?
Yeah, how would you set up your first month or a few weeks long, a month long kind of adventure?
So the girls will live in a house with guys that either they're like really comfortable with or they're like sleeping with, but like it's a very open environment where they know like, all right, this guy's fucking a bunch of girls, I'm fucking a bunch of guys. We know that about each other. We're cool with that. So it's either has to be one of those situations, which obviously takes a long time in finding the right, people to link up with, or you need some basic like reason why people would, stay in a house together. So like obviously a model house is a house for models that, models don't have money, models need to go to castings, and, models need a place to live, right? So the model house is almost always the only way I've really seen it work. Unless I'm trying to think of other scenarios, like it could be like a social media house as well, like a bunch of TikTok guys or Instagram people that are making content together that want to live together. or maybe around, some other, it's got to be, there has to be some like theme to the house, if that makes sense.
Let's start from, let's assume we're going to a new city, that it's not a city where anyone lives. We're setting something up for 1 month in a new city where we haven't been before. We have no problems getting leads. So, and it doesn't have to be a living type of situation, but kind of like building a social circle that turns into parties and whatever, all of that stuff.
Gotcha. So you want to find a really cool place that's got you want an awesome room that you can host parties at. So really important to have good lighting, obviously, a good sound system, a DJ deck. Someone hopefully is living there, is able to DJ. And you always want to make sure, obviously, you have everything you need for a party, all the refreshments, all that shit. And you wanted to start hosting parties, making sure you really control the guys who come and make sure they're all like good, solid dudes who are going to bring a bunch of girls. And here's the thing, like, guys hate showing up to a sausage fest, right? Like, no guy wants to walk into a party that's worse than a 50-50 ratio. But if a girl walks into a party that's the opposite of a sausage fest, if there's like 3-to-1, she's not like, oh, this sucks, there's too many girls here. It's the opposite. She's like, whoa, this is crazy. You don't go to these parties very often. These guys must be awesome to know this many girls and have this many girls show up. So like the pre-selection aspect of it is amazing. So if you have a cool place and you do like consistent parties, and they don't need to be like crazy parties. They could be dinner parties. They could be poker nights. They could be like basically any reason to get together. If you always have a good crew of people, it starts to feel like a family, and the people keep kind of coming back. And then of course, when people come to visit, or girls have other friends who come into town, if you have a couple extra bedrooms, like ideally you've got, maybe like a 5-bedroom house, 3 dudes living there, and then you got 2 extra bedrooms. And, you in those rooms, like maybe you put a bunk bed, right? That could have like 2 on top and 2 on the bottom. And you're just always like, hey, if you need a place to crash, you're totally welcome to stay here. After parties, girls will probably just like end up staying there. And like a lot of the time what'll happen is, you'll have girls be like, hey, like I'm moving out of my place. Do you mind if I crashed in your extra bedroom for a little while? And then they do, and then they invite friends. And then suddenly you have the problem where you don't have enough bedrooms, right? And and like everyone's kind of staying, and it just kind of turns into this, it's kind of like a zoo or a crazy sort of house. But once the other girls know that there's girls staying there and they feel comfortable and everyone's cool, and it's an environment that's sexual, but it's not like they're always comfortable in that environment. It's like clearly people are fucking and the guys here fuck, but I'm never, as a girl, I never feel like I have to do that or obligated to do that or any sort of pressure whatsoever. And that's that's really the I wouldn't say the hard thing. If the guys, it's hard to find guys like that, obviously, but if you've got all dudes that have 30 day game notches under their belt, they're way more likely to be those type of guys for sure.
Of course.
Yeah.
Would you set up this house in a city center or?
Yeah, I would do it in the city center. You could also do like you could pick like a summer spot like Odessa, for example, and you can do it for like 3 months, where you've got just tons of people going out. It's that season. Obviously, you could do it, and like we've done this in Mykonos. We've done this in the Hamptons, in New York, Miami. Obviously, we had our like main places in Miami, New York, and LA. Also Paris too. So anywhere that's obviously a big enough market, especially if there's nightclubs, you can make deals with with promoters. You can also make deals directly with the nightclub. Be like, listen, I've got a bunch of girls. Here they're hot. Can you give us a table and comp us the bottles, because I'm bringing 12 girls and the girls are going to want to go, right? So it's you'd be surprised how easy it is to set up those sort of arrangements when you have what beautiful women, like as much as it's like not politically correct to say, is it's a, in the business world, it's currency. And I'm not hopefully there's no feminist. It's just, that's the fucking world we live in. Like people pay for access to beautiful women, and the nightclub industry is a perfect example. So it's if you have beautiful women around, people will pay to be part of that.
Okay. Yeah, because we do like we go to cities together sometimes with like we have like there's the main community, we have like a group chat with like 200 plus guys, but we have like like the inner circle type of thing, like the guy those are all guys I've coached in the past, and we just kind of started going on trips together, and then like Mexico was basically a bunch of us just getting together from all over the place, and
Nice.
3.5 months. And
where'd you guys stay?
we did a bit of Tulum, we did a bit of Playa del Carmen, and then I left everyone and I went to Puerto Escondido to Oaxaca City, to West Coast, because I wanted to see the sunsets. I don't wake up for sunrises, so.
Yeah, I'm surprised. We probably did cross paths a few times, but had no idea. I was in Tulum.
Where were you? You were coaching in Playa del Carmen?
Tulum. Well, I did a week-long program in Tulum, but most of the time I was staying in Aldiazama or Playa del Carmen. Stayed a little bit in like Tulum in the hotel zona, but I was there for 4 months also. So I was with my girlfriend, and my dog, and we stayed in Akumal a few times. And
there were shitload of when we arrived, because I was talking about going to Mexico a lot online, and then James Tusk was talking a lot about going to Mexico. And then we did some like podcasts with him there, and it ended with so many guys just randomly showing up.
Oh, really?
Like you walk down the street and someone recognizes me and like, oh yeah, you're this dude. I watched your videos. Like,
yeah, where were you guys going out? Obviously there's
just day game, and that's it. Just the only day game.
In Playa del Carmen on the.
Yeah, like in the beginning, yeah, but we kind of quickly find our regulars and our kind of rotation, and we were like, okay, this is good. So I'll get something here and there, but this is good. I mean, I'm having my fun, and now I can enjoy Mexico. Yeah. So that's what I do in every city. If I go to a city, I'll find a few girls I like to see there for like however long I'm staying there, and then I'll keep like once in a while going out. But in general, I'll be pretty chill. I have my rotation. Now I can focus on like more important shit in life. Kind of chasing pussy is fine, but it gets boring after a while.
Yeah.
And once you get a few hot regulars, you're like, well, why do I need more? Like I have few, they're hot. Like I'm not gonna upgrade. Right. Like where I'm gonna upgrade? Like where else I'm gonna like push the limits? Then you have to push pretty high.
Yeah.
Especially in places like Mexico, where like hotness was a bit of a problem there. Unless you speak Spanish and you work with Argentinians, but anything else, like sure, like few of them are Americans, like a small percentage of the Americans in Playa were hot. Tulum had a way hotter crowd, so that's definitely a place to, I think, set up a house and do shit like that. But we're actually planning a trip with guys this July. We've no idea. Like we have idea, but we're gonna go somewhere, and we will take a few students. I will take a few students with me, but other than that, we're probably gonna set up something similar, because it's a very close group with guys who all have really good game. And okay, the last topic I want to cover is you've gamed in the Western world, being USA, and in the FSU, former Soviet Union, Eastern Europe, so mainly, let's say, Kiev, and those are two very different worlds. For me, after spending 3.5 months in Mexico and meeting so many Americans, like Americans are nice to everyone, but that niceness is super shallow. It doesn't mean shit. Like they're not that nice to everyone. Whereas I'm right now in Belgrade, and in Belgrade, people are like just as in Kiev. We're like, what the fuck do you want?
Right.
Fucking pizdettes, fuck off.
Fuck off. You did not.
Yeah, but when they open up to you, they actually open up, they're really amazing people, and that actually means something. So for me, that is, I run away from Mexico to kind of be back in where I grew up, where like connection means something. So what do you see are the main differences in what works with Western girls versus, let's say, Ukrainian girls?
Good question. Yeah, and I love Belgrade, by the way. I've been there many times, and I don't know. I think the the Serbian women are as hot as the Ukrainians, and
Yeah.
typically a little bit, more substance, harder to fuck too.
In
So,
Serbians?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh man, like that. You know what's the problem here? The country is living so shitty that one of the ways to get out of that shitty environment is to have fake tits, fake lips, and fake everything and fake personality, and then you would date guys that are like kind of making money in shady ways and sugar, and so that's kind of part of a big part of, if you see those really hot girls, that's kind of what, from what
Yeah.
what's speaking with them, that's the impression I get, and speaking with other day gamers and other local chicks, that's kind of what the game is here for them. So you have to understand that there is that kind of thing that you're like, you can get them once in a while, but in general, like, don't waste your fucking time. If she's after sugar, she has frame, she has balls, she knows what she's after.
Yeah.
She doesn't really know how to build connection. Like, she knows how to build a fake connection to get something out of you, but
Yeah.
is it something you want? But the hotness, even girls that aren't those, like the average girl, is pretty damn good.
Pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, the I would say, well, a few really big things when it comes to, meeting girls from the West versus, former USSR. Like you said, the girls are going to be a lot more, they're going to have that tough exterior. They're not going to be friendly. Like in the US, I remember when I was just becoming a coach, I was working for a company. It was called Pickup 101, and to become a coach, you had to get an infield video where you got a girl's number, right? Not that hard, right? But
Give me 10 minutes.
So, but I was like a total newbie at the time. They were basically willing to hire anyone who would actually go and approach. And I did 30 approaches, and I think I have a boyfriend 30 times. I remember counting them, like, this is fucking ridiculous. Usually it only takes me like 5 or 6, right? But 30. And that's pretty common in the US. Like, girls will always give you some bullshit reason for why they don't like you. They just won't say, like, don't talk to me, you're disgusting. Like they will say in Eastern Europe, like, why are you talking to me? Like, you're just, get away from me. They're like, they have no problem saying that shit. And obviously as a day gamer, you end up loving that, because it's like, you don't want to deal with some fake niceness, and like, let's not waste our time. Like, if you like me, great. If you don't, I'll go fuck off. I'm cool with that. I'd rather not waste my time. So, that was obviously a big thing, but it's now realizing that, like, obviously women in Eastern Europe, they're going to see through your bullshit. If you're trying to use like stupid techniques, or like trying to trick them into thinking like, oh, I'm this good monogamous guy. It's like, they know you're probably a sex tourist. If you're not a local, like, you can't fool them. So if you're kind of just like direct and honest about it, like when I first was here, like, girls would ask me like, so why are you here? I'm like, to be honest, I'm a sex tourist. Come on, isn't everyone around here who speaks fucking
But that's
English?
agree and amplify. That's just like, it's a technique. Agree and amplify.
And they're like, okay, it's fine. Like, so it's not like, I feel like American girls, they always need to have like an excuse for why they had sex with a guy. Like, oh, he was so funny, I didn't mean to do it. Like, I didn't want to, blah, 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 but I did. Where it's like, here, like, girls, I don't know. I don't speak Russian very well, so I don't obviously know like the inner workings, but it doesn't seem like that shit's really happening. They're like more direct about it. They're like, yeah, I like sex. I like to get fucked by a bunch of guys, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's just a little bit more of an honest culture, less bullshitting, less fake shit going around. But the cool thing is, I've noticed that if I'm like, my ultimate way of kind of communicating with the girls here is, a lot of the guys who they meet, whether it be the locals or other just like sugar daddies or whatever, either they're like trying to win the girls over with bullshit gifts and nonsense like that, like total, newbie nonsense, or they're guys who do really well, but they're just kind of assholes. They're not, they're not gentlemen. They just don't like treat the girls with respect. So I found, like, if you can be confident and alpha and, do all the things right, and you're like a cool, respectful guy that's honest with them, like, you'll succeed obviously anywhere, but especially well over here. because the honesty does go a lot further, I find.
Yeah, so I hear two things there. One being if in this part of the world, at least that's my view, if in this part of the world you meet girls that are into banging a ton of guys, I think it's easy to bang also the ones that don't bang guys here. You just like really have to know what you're doing, like to sick levels of game. Like you
Yeah.
have to be able to build genuine connection with them super fast, and it has to be like it doesn't like it can be real, it can be.
Well, the nice thing about women in Eastern Europe is most of them who are, especially the ones who are younger, who might be incredibly hot, they don't really know that they're hot. A lot of the time, like they don't understand how hot they are. It might be from a village somewhere, or like it's just there's so that like the bar is so much higher, right? So when you're like an American, especially, and you're used to like pretty ugly people, fat, white, out of shape people, and that's the culture in the U.S. And you see this girl who's like, the hottest girl you've ever seen. She might not think she's even hot at all. So there's that like that novelty factor when you first come here. But one thing that I always tell guys is like, if you don't have game and you think you're gonna go to Eastern Europe and do well, like fuck off. Like,
No way.
Yeah.
Go to Mexico.
Exactly. Yeah. Like
Bang
least,
tourists.
yeah. Learn to succeed in your hometown before, you ruin another place for the rest of the
Especially
guys.
places like, well, Kiev. Like I haven't been to Kiev for a game, and I'm not like I'm thinking about going there, maybe just for like between Belgrade and Riga, but I wouldn't go there for months just because of how overgamed it is.
Yeah.
Like
Has
everyone goes
Belgrade not been overgamed?
Belgrade. It doesn't feel like it has been overgamed because Belgrade is so tough that.
Yeah.
Uh, well, it's easy for Americans to go to Ukraine. You just show up, and the same with Serbia. You just show up. Whereas Russia, as an
Right.
American going to Russia, like Russia doesn't have an embassy in the U.S. So it's hard, to get a visa. You have to go to another country, then get the visa, then go to Russia. So Russia is something that I'm actually very interested in, and but Kiev
I've
just for
heard
one
St.
reason, just for the.
Petersburg is Mecca. I've been to Moscow. I actually have a Russian visa. I got it here in Kiev. But and I was in St. Petersburg many years ago before I was even in the game. But I spent about a month in Moscow a couple summers ago, and it was A plus. And like no tourists basically, no Americans for sure.
Yeah.
So, and all my friends who are avid, gamers, and they all say St. Petersburg is the best place they've been to.
Yeah, I want to hit St. Petersburg. Maybe like Moscow, but just a little bit. Moscow might not be. It's, I think, like New York in a lot of ways, just being super busy and everyone being from other cities and being there to make it. So I don't think I would like that environment. But yeah, St. Petersburg is definitely on my list.
I mean, I'm sure there's so many other cities. Like, in my opinion, the best place to go for day game in Ukraine is Kharkov, which is a university town. It used to be the capital, closer to the Russian border. And like Dnipro is amazing, Kharkov, Kherson, Nikolaev, like these second tier cities that most people probably have never heard of unless they've been to Ukraine. 100 to 300,000 people, maybe 1 million people. But, there's no one doing anything.
Kharkov has a lot of guys.
What's
There's
that?
like
Kharkov?
yeah, they have like a community of.
Oh, do they?
One of the biggest dating companies in the world is Russian.
Uh-huh.
RMS, Russian Model of Effective Seduction, and they have guys like all over kind of Russian-speaking countries, and they have several guys that coach they run like their type of boot camps.
Oh, okay.
In Kharkiv and in Kiev, but they teach a completely different model, and that shit maybe works in Russian-speaking countries, but you do that shit anywhere else in the world, then well, you're gonna be destroyed. Because one thing they do is, and I don't know whether you teach it or not, but they walk with girls, like, which is in my book one of the biggest no-nos. Like, you never walk with a girl. That's it. Like, and they walk with girls, and a girl doesn't like the girl is. I've heard this from girls. They're like, well, it's pretty dark. This guy like isn't fucking off. He's just like talking to me. I'm starting to feel not safe.
That's horrible.
But definitely, yeah, it is on a list. So, dude, if guys wanna look at what you're doing, if guys wanna watch your stuff or see what's anything more about it, where do they go? Where do they find you?
Yeah. So go to innerconfidence.com and my
Link in
podcast. What's that?
Link in description.
Yeah, link in description. My podcast is on there. You can also hit me up on Instagram. It's just Robbie, Robbie _Kramer. TikTok, I post a lot of videos on there too. And I always love to hear from guys. So hit me up on Instagram. Just send me a DM if you want to get in touch or whatever through my site.
Guys,
Yeah.
I challenge you to send Robbie a dick pic.
Great.
No, I'm joking. No one
If you
would do
send me
that.
a dick pic, I'll send you a fucking PCDS shirt. How about that? No, okay. No. But if you do, if you listen to the podcast, I will send you a shirt. Leave a review. And dude, I'd love to have you on my podcast if you want to do it.
Let's do that. Yeah, we will talk about it. Perfect. Okay, guys, thanks for listening.
Well, I hope you learned something and you're ready to try to set up your first model house or TikTok house or Instagram house or OnlyFans house, whatever the fuck you decide to do. If you like this video, if you like this interview and you're watching this on YouTube, then give this video a thumbs up, subscribe. If you're listening to this on iTunes, then, well, give this podcast a 5-star review and tell others what you think about it. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, then just click follow. All of those things simply help me get the message out in front of more people and help more guys to change their dating life to whatever it is they desire. Thank you for listening and bye.